Okay, so you might think you know Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
The pop superstar,
Right.
the record breaker, yeah, the whole cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's shattered records with the Eras Tour, topping, what, $2 billion, making it the highest grossing tour ever.
Incredible numbers.
And just recently, she became the first person from the arts, really, to be named Time Person of the Year purely for her achievements.
Yeah, quite a landmark.
But what if we told you there's like a much deeper, more intricate story behind every era and every single Taylor's version? Something that makes her impact really, really unique.
That's exactly right. And today our mission is really to cut through those headlines. We want to explore the evolution of her artistry, those really strategic career moves she's made. And of course, the profound influence she's had, not just on the music industry, but on culture overall.
Okay.
We've pulled together a pretty comprehensive stack of sources to try and understand how she went from this young songwriter to, well, the massive force she is today.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this. So we'll trace her path, right? From that country prodigy in Pennsylvania
Right.
all the way to global pop icon. We'll dive into her very public fight for artist rights
Super important.
and examine the incredible evolution in her songwriting, her vocals too. Then we'll get into her massive cultural footprint, the economic impact, even the political side.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does.
Yeah.
So whether you're, a dedicated Swiftie or maybe just curious about someone who's clearly defining the 21st century,
Yeah.
you're definitely going to uncover some surprising facts and some real insights into an artist who just keeps reinventing herself. All right, let's go right back to the beginning, the genesis of this superstar.
Okay.
Taylor Allison Swift, born December 13, 1989, in West Reading, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a fun detail. She was actually named after James Taylor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the singer-songwriter. Her parents, Scott and Andrea Swift, apparently hoped a unisex name might, help her in business later on.
A bit of foresight there, maybe.
Maybe. Her dad was a stockbroker, mom was a marketing executive, and she has a younger brother, Austin, who's an actor now.
Right, and what's, I think, really insightful here is how her family background, even though her parents weren't musicians by trade, they really cultivated this environment where her artistic side wasn't just, accepted, but actively supported.
That's a key point.
Definitely. Her maternal grandmother, Marjorie Finlay, she was an opera singer.
Wow.
And Swift herself has mentioned that hearing her grandmother sing in church was like one of her earliest musical memories. That kind of exposure, that early encouragement.
Yeah.
It laid this subtle but really crucial groundwork.
Absolutely. And her childhood, parts of it sound almost like something out of a storybook.
Right.
Spending holidays on a Christmas tree farm in Pennsylvania.
And you read that and think.
And then summers performing acoustic songs at a coffee shop down in Stone Harbor, New Jersey.
That's pretty idyllic.
Initially, though, around age 9, she was all about musical theater. Even went to New York City for vocal and acting lessons.
Okay, so not country initially.
Not initially. But then came this pivotal moment. She watched a documentary about Faith Hill.
Ah.
And that was apparently it. Her goal just completely shifted. She became laser-focused on pursuing country music in Nashville.
And that determination, even, at such a young age, it led to what you can only really call a courageous pilgrimage.
Yeah, pilgrimage is a good word.
At just 11 years old, she and her mom traveled to Nashville, and they were tirelessly submitting demo tapes, mostly covers, Dolly Parton, Dixie Chicks, that kind of thing, to all the different record labels. But the initial response, it was just rejection after rejection.
Ouch.
Rejected by all the labels, as she put it.
Yeah.
Now, that could have been a major, major blow. But instead, it actually shifted her whole approach. It pushed her towards, self-reliance, towards songwriting as her way in.
And this is where we see that early agency, that drive, really start to show.
Exactly.
Those rejections basically pushed her to pick up a guitar at age 12, learn from a local musician, and start writing her own songs.
Which became fundamental.
Absolutely fundamental. That decision to create her own material, it's been a constant thread through her entire career. And soon after, she started working with a talent manager, Dan Dimtro.
Okay.
And that opened some doors. Modeling for Abercrombie & Fitch, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Getting an original song on a Maybelline compilation CD. And even landing an artist development deal with RCA Records when she was just 13.
13. That's incredible. And it's so clear her family was just fully invested in this dream. They made huge sacrifices.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, When she was 14, to really boost her country music chances, her dad actually transferred his whole Merrill Lynch office,
Wow.
and the entire family relocated to Hendersonville, Tennessee, right outside Nashville.
That's commitment.
Total commitment.
Right.
She went to Hendersonville High School at first, but then switched to homeschooling through Aaron Academy to focus more on music. These early moves just highlight this incredibly focused, almost strategic dedication to her career path. And of course, an amazing level of family support.
And that dedication, it paid off pretty fast. In 2004, still just 14, she signs with Sony ATV Tree Music Publishing.
Became the youngest signee in their history.
Youngest ever. And she immediately dives into working with these seasoned Music Row songwriters, famously writing songs with Liz Rose every Tuesday afternoon after school.
Building her craft right there.
Exactly. But then comes another really pivotal moment. She decides to leave RCA.
Right, the development deal. Why?
Well, because she wanted to release songs that felt real to her then as a teenager. She didn't want to wait until she was 18 when maybe those feelings wouldn't resonate anymore.
That shows incredible self-awareness.
It really does. It wasn't just impatience. It was like this foundational assertion of her artistic integrity. She knew her voice, knew her audience, even then.
And that foresight, I mean, for a teenager, it's just striking. That decision, combined with a showcase she did at the famous Bluebird Cafe.
Oh, the Bluebirds.
Yeah, November 3rd, 2004. It just so happened that Scott Borchetta, who was literally in the process of starting Big Machine Records, was in the audience that night.
Talk about right place, right time.
Absolutely. Just 2 weeks later, she signs a recording contract with Big Machine. But, and this is critical, on the condition that she would write her own albums.
Wow, she held out for that.
She did. And her dad even bought a 3% stake in the company, showing just how much the family believed in her.
Amazing.
The contract was all finalized by July 2005, and she spent the last 4 months of that year recording her debut album with producer Nathan Chapman. That whole sequence, rejection, self-advocacy, finding the right champion, the family investment, it just perfectly laid the groundwork for everything that followed, including those later battles for artistic ownership. Okay, so Big Machine deal is done. Now the country superstar journey really kicks off.
Let's hear it.
Her debut single, Tim McGraw, drops in June 2006, and it feels like such a classic Nashville story almost.
How so?
Well, in mid-2006, she and her mom were literally sending out promo copies of the single to country radio stations all over the U.S., like personally driving her music onto the airwaves.
Wow, talk about dedication. That's grassroots right there.
Totally. Then her self-titled debut album, Taylor Swift, comes out October 24th, 2006.
And how did it do?
It peaked in the top 5 on the Billboard 200, which is huge for a debut. And it spent an incredible 157 weeks on the chart.
157 weeks.
Yeah, the longest run for any album released in the 2000s decade. But here's what's really significant, I think.
What's that?
She was the first female country artist ever to write or co-write every single track on a debut album that went platinum.
Okay, that's a major statement. Artistic control right from the start. It echoes that determination we talked about.
It really does. And the album's success wasn't just luck. It was powered by relentless promotion.
Right, you mentioned opening for big names.
Yeah, she did this massive 6-month radio tour, plus opened for huge acts like Rascal Flatts, George Strait, Brad Paisley, even Tim McGraw and Faith Hill eventually.
Getting her music out there.
Exactly. Building that fan base was critical. The single Teardrops on My Guitar became her big crossover hit on mainstream radio, hitting top 10 on pop and adult contemporary charts.
Okay, so reaching beyond country early on.
Definitely. And then Our Song and Shoulda Said No, they both hit #1 on the Hot Country Songs chart. And Our Song actually made her the youngest person to single-handedly write and sing a #1 country single.
Youngest ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this quick rise, it obviously earned her some serious recognition fast. In 2007, she became the youngest person ever to win the Nashville Songwriters Association's Songwriter Artist of the Year award.
That's huge.
Her path was just undeniable, building this really solid foundation in country, but already showing these clear hints of a much broader appeal, this ability to connect beyond just one genre.
Okay, then comes album number 2, Fearless, November 2008. And this is where things really, really took off.
Absolutely. Launched her into the stratosphere. It was her first #1 album on the Billboard 200, stayed there for 11 weeks.
11 weeks is a long time.
Huge. And it was the best-selling album of 2009 in the U.S. But even more than that, it went on to become the most awarded country album in history.
That's awarded ever.
Ever. It won Album of the Year at the CMAs, the ACMs, and the Grammys in 2010. That was a massive signal she was becoming a force way beyond just country music.
Yeah, winning the big three like that.
Exactly. And the singles from Fearless, they were absolutely pivotal in that crossover success. Love Story became the first country song ever to top the pop songs chart.
First ever.
And You Belong With Me was the first country song to top Billboard's all-genre radio songs chart. Both of them reached the top 5 on the main Billboard Hot 100 chart.
So decisively breaking those genre barriers now, reaching that wider mainstream audience.
Absolutely. It was undeniable at this point.
And then came, well, Kanye-gate.
Ah, yes. The moment.
A moment that, whether you loved it or hated it, instantly became iconic. It just cemented her place in pop culture history, didn't it?
It really did. When You Belong With Me won Best Female Video at the MTV VMAs in 2009, and Kanye West jumped on stage, interrupted her speech.
Yeah, everyone remembers that.
That wasn't just some fleeting controversy. It was a defining public moment. It brought her even more widespread media attention, maybe not all positive, and put her in this new, intensely scrutinized spotlight. It was kind of an early taste of the public scrutiny that would just follow her relentlessly. Okay, moving into her next era, Speak Now in 2010. This was a really significant artistic statement.
Why is that?
Because Taylor wrote every single track on the album entirely by herself.
Why, the whole album?
The whole thing. A feat she hadn't done before for a full album. Musically, it expanded on her country pop sound, but you could hear these really strong rock influences coming through.
So experimenting more.
Definitely. A clear sign of her developing musical taste and her willingness to push boundaries. Commercially, another huge success. Sold over 1 million copies first week in the U.S.
1 million first week, again.
Yeah. Singles like Mine and Mean were big country hits, and Sparks Fly and Ours both hit #1 on the country charts.
Okay, so still dominating country, but evolving.
Yeah.
Then came Red in 2012.
Right. And Red is where you see her collaborating with new, really established producers, people like Max Martin and Shellback.
The pop hit makers.
Exactly. And that pushed her sound even further beyond traditional country pop. Red famously brought in all these eclectic styles, Brit rock, even dubstep dance pop.
The dubstep, really.
Yeah, it sparked this huge critical debate. Is she still country? Is she pop now? What is she?
Right, the identity question.
Look, commercially, another absolute smash. It became the fastest-selling country album in U.S. history at the time, over 1.2 million first-week sales. And it was her first #1 album in the UK.
Breaking new ground internationally, too.
Definitely. And the Red Tour, which ran 2013 to 2014, that really cemented her as a major global touring force, became the highest-grossing country tour ever at that point, over $150 million.
Wow. And this era was also marked by some high-profile relationships, right, that fueled the media narrative.
Yeah, her romances with Connor Kennedy, Harry Styles, that definitely became a big part of the public story around her songwriting inspiration, a narrative that, has stuck with her.
Right.
But beyond her own albums, she was incredibly busy. She did songs for the Hunger Games soundtrack, Safe and Sound won a Grammy.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
And Sweeter Than Fiction for the movie One Chance. She did guest vocals on tracks with B.O.B., Tim McGraw. And she even took on some acting roles. Voiced a character in The Lorax, cameoed in New Girl, had a role in The Giver.
So really branching out across different media, showing her versatility.
Exactly. Her influence was definitely growing beyond just music.
Okay, so this feels like the moment she fully commits to the pop transformation.
It really does. In March 2014, she moves to New York City.
Symbolic move.
Very symbolic. Really signaled this conscious image shift from country star to, global pop icon. And her album 1989, released that October, it was just a bold declaration of that shift.
How so, musically?
It was rooted firmly in 1980s synth-pop, just fully embracing electronic arrangements, drum machines, processed vocals. She talked about being inspired by artists like Phil Collins, Annie Lennox, Madonna.
Okay, a definite break from country.
Completely. And the commercial response was just colossal.
Yeah.
1989, spent 11 weeks at #1, stayed in the Billboard 200 top 10 for an entire year. It became her best-selling album worldwide, over 14 million copies sold globally.
14 million, wow.
And The singles from 1989 were just absolute monsters. Shake It Off, Blank Space, Bad Blood, all hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
All number ones.
Yeah, and she even became the first woman ever to replace herself at the #1 spot on the Hot 100. Just a complete, undeniable takeover of the pop charts.
Unbelievable dominance. And the tour must have been huge, too.
The 1989 World Tour, predictably, was the highest-grossing tour of 2015, pulled in over $250 million.
$250 million.
And the awards just kept coming, including becoming the first woman to win the Grammy for Album of the Year twice, which she did in 2016 for 1989.
History making again.
Constantly. And this era also saw her take that really strong public stance on music streaming.
Right, the Spotify battle.
Yeah, she publicly opposed free streaming, pulled her entire catalog from Spotify in 2014, and she famously criticized Apple Music.
What happened there?
She wrote an open letter criticizing their plan not to pay artists royalties during the free trial period for Apple Music. And it worked. Apple changed their policy.
Wow, she actually made Apple change course.
Yeah, a huge win for artist rights, showing her growing industry power. Her catalog eventually went back to Spotify in 2017.
Interesting. And during this time, she also dated Calvin Harris, right? And there was that songwriting pseudonym.
That's right, Nils Sjoberg. She co-wrote his hit, This Is What You Came For, under that name, showed she was still writing hits even outside her own spotlight.
Right.
But this period also brought intense public scrutiny, especially around the whole famous lyric controversy with Kanye West in 2016.
Yes, the snake moment.
Exactly, where she was sort of canceled online, called a snake. That whole media storm, all the drama around her personal life, it profoundly influenced her next album. The public criticism basically became fuel for her art.
Okay, so that leads us directly into Reputation.
Directly. Released in November 2017, Reputation was heavily informed by all those public controversies and also by her relationship with actor Joe Alwyn, which started around late 2016.
And the sound?
Primarily electropop, but with heavy influences from hip-hop and R&B. Think maximalist production, heavy bass, manipulated vocals.
Darker, maybe.
Definitely darker, more defiant. Lyrically, it tackled themes of fame, media drama, finding love amidst all that chaos.
And how is it received?
Debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, naturally. Over 1.2 million U.S. sales first week. And the lead single, Look What You Made Me Do.
Yeah, that was everywhere.
Topped the Billboard Hot 100, and it was actually her first UK #1 single. The Reputation Stadium Tour in 2018 followed, grossing an incredible $345.7 million worldwide. So this whole era was really about her reclaiming her narrative, right? Turning all that public negativity into artistic fuel and just cementing her status as this dominant force who could adapt her sound, her image, whatever the situation demanded. Okay, so this brings us to a really, really crucial turning point in her career. Her fight for independence, for artist rights.
Yeah, this is huge. The Masters issue.
Exactly. In November 2018, she signs a new record deal with Universal Music Group, specifically under their Republic Records imprint.
Okay.
And the truly significant part of this deal, the game changer, was the provision that Swift herself would maintain ownership of her masters.
The original recordings.
The original sound recordings of her music, yes. Giving her unprecedented control over how they're used, licensed, everything.
That's massive leverage for an artist.
Massive. And furthermore, Universal also agreed to distribute a share of any profits from selling its stake in Spotify directly to its artists, non-recoupably.
Meaning artists get paid without having to pay back advances first?
Exactly. A truly groundbreaking move in the industry, largely driven by her influence.
Wow. So her first album under this new deal was Lover, right? August 2019.
Correct. An eclectic pop album, and it became the global best-selling album by a solo artist that year.
And wasn't there a song from that era that had a huge comeback later?
Yes. Cruel Summer. It became this massive, resurgent #1 hit in 2023, years after the album came out. Just shows the staying power of her music.
Incredible. But the Lover era quickly got overshadowed by that very public dispute.
With Scooter Braun, yeah. He purchased Big Machine Records, her old label.
Which meant he owned the masters to her first 6 albums.
Exactly. And Swift publicly stated that Big Machine offered her a chance to earn back her masters, but only by delivering one new album for each old one she wanted back, under a new contract.
Which she refused.
She refused, finding the terms completely unacceptable. And this just ignited this massive industry-wide conversation about artists' rights, ownership, intellectual property, with Taylor right at the center of it all.
So what did she do? She fought back.
She fought back in the most audacious way possible. She decided to re-record her entire back catalog.
Unprecedented.
Totally unprecedented. A project she officially started in November 2020. This strategic move was all about controlling the licensing of her songs, effectively devaluing the old masters owned by Braun and later Shamrock Holdings, and allowing her to truly own her work. It sent absolute shockwaves through the music business.
And just before that, didn't her publishing deal change too?
Yes, good point. In February 2020, her original 16-year contract with Sony TV Publishing expired. She then signed a new global publishing deal with Universal Music Publishing Group, further consolidating control over her songwriting copyrights.
So she's strategically regaining control on all fronts, master recordings and publishing.
Exactly, setting herself up for long-term ownership.
Okay, and then, right in the middle of all this, amidst the pandemic in 2020, she does something totally unexpected.
Yeah, she pulls this incredible surprise move, releasing not one but two sister albums.
Folklore and Evermore.
Folklore in July, Evermore in December. And these were a significant artistic departure. She embraced this whole indie folk, indie rock sound, lots of orchestration, muted synths, a very different vibe.
Who did she work with on those?
Primarily Aaron Dessner from The National, and also Jack Antonoff, who she'd worked with before. And Joe Alwyn, her partner at the time, co-wrote several songs under the pseudonym William Bowery.
William Bowery, right.
This reinvention really surprised people. It showcased this different, more introspective, mature side of her artistry, proved her incredible versatility yet again.
And they were huge, critically and commercially, right?
Absolutely. Not just critically acclaimed, they set new records. Folklore and its lead single Cardigan made Swift the first artist ever to debut a #1 album and a #1 song in the U.S. in the same week.
First ever. Wow.
And then she did it again just months later with Evermore and its single Willow.
That's insane. Repeating a first ever.
Exactly. And Folklore even won the Grammy for Album of the Year in 2021. That made her the first woman to win Album of the Year 3 times.
History again. This period really solidified her reputation, didn't it? As this truly versatile, mature singer-songwriter.
No question. Capable of shifting genres completely and successfully. And alongside all this new creativity,
The re-recordings project started rolling out publicly, giving fans these updated versions of her classic albums.
exactly. Fearless, Taylor's version, and Red, Taylor's version, both came out in 2021. Both hit #1 on the Billboard 200, of course.
Naturally.
Red, Taylor's version, also helped her surpass Shania Twain for the most weeks at #1 on the top country albums chart by a female artist.
Wow. And then there was the song.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The phenomenon that was all too well 10-minute version, Taylor's version, From the Vault.
Quite a title.
Right. But it became the longest song in history, over 10 minutes to top the Billboard Hot 100.
Longest ever #1. That's wild. Just shows the power of her fan base and that whole narrative.
It really does. Then her 10th studio album, Midnights, dropped in October 2022.
Another shift.
Another shift. This time into minimalist electropop and synth-pop, but still with touches of hip-hop, R&B, electronica, and, unsurprisingly, another massive commercial success. Her 5th album to sell over 1 million copies first week in the U.S.
5th time doing that. Just incredible consistency.
And the chart domination with Midnights was just complete.
How so?
The album's tracks, led by the single Antihero, made her the first artist in history to occupy the entire top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 in the same week.
The whole top 10. All her songs.
All hers. #1 through 10. It's virtually unheard of. That level of simultaneous chart presence is just staggering.
Mind-blowing. And she kept the re-recordings coming too, right?
Yep. In 2023, we got Speak Now, Taylor's version, and 1989, Taylor's version. Both hit #1, naturally.
What's her name?
Speak Now, Taylor's version, actually made her the woman with the most #1 albums ever on the Billboard 200 chart, surpassing Barbra Streisand.
Surpassing Streisand.
Wow. And 1989, Taylor's version, became her 6th album to sell over 1 million copies in its first week. The single, Is It Over Now, from that one also went to #1.
The hits just kept coming. And Midnights won big at the Grammys recently.
Huge. At the 2025 Grammys, Midnights won Album of the Year. That made her the first artist ever to win Album of the Year 4 times.
4 times. Nobody else has done that.
Nobody. And then, in what felt like the culmination of this whole long saga, on May 30th, 2025, Swift finalized the purchase of the masters to her first 6 original studio albums from Shamrock Holdings.
She actually bought them back.
She bought them back, bringing that long, very public, very significant battle for artistic ownership to a really victorious conclusion.
Okay, we absolutely have to talk about the Eras phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because it's just unprecedented in modern music, isn't it?
Completely unprecedented. In March 2023, she kicks off the Eras Tour. And the concept itself was brilliant, a tribute to her entire musical history, all her different eras.
Covering everything.
Everything. Spanning 5 continents, running through December 2024. It's been nothing short of historic. The media even coined the term Swift mania to describe this just peak level of popularity and her global impact, cultural, economic, even political.
Swift mania.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fits. And the scale is just mind-boggling.
Staggering is the word. The Eras Tour officially became the highest-grossing tour in history, generated an estimated $2 billion in revenue.
$2 billion. That just redefines what's even possible for live music.
It really does. And it wasn't just the concerts. The concert film, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, released in 2023, also became the highest-grossing concert film ever, made over $250 million at the box office.
Wow. Even the photo book sold almost 1 million copies first week in the U.S.
Yeah, this tour wasn't just a tour. It was a global cultural event. And it's clearly influenced her new music, too, inspiring her 11th and 12th albums.
Right. The Tortured Poets Department came out in 2024.
Correct. And The Life of a Showgirl is scheduled for 2025.
Okay, let's talk about the Tortured Poets Department. Dropped in April 2024 and just immediately started breaking records again.
Instantly. It became the first album ever to rack up 1 billion Spotify streams in just 1 week.
1 billion streams in a week.
Unbelievable numbers. Top charts everywhere, obviously. In the U.S., it debuted at #1 on Billboard 200 with over 2.6 million first-week units, and it stayed at #1 for 17 weeks.
17 weeks. That's her longest run at #1 for an album, right?
It is, and it was the global bestseller of 2024, selling 5.6 million pure copies worldwide.
Just staggering. And the chart domination continued.
Oh, yeah. The album's songs, led by the single Fortnite with Post Malone, made her the first artist ever to monopolize the top 14 spots on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously.
Top 14. It keeps getting bigger.
It's incredible. The second single, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, also hit the top 3. And on the personal side, this era saw her relationship with football player Travis Kelce really take center stage.
Yeah, the super couple label.
Exactly. They started dating in 2023, became a huge media focus, and then got engaged in August 2025.
Engaged, right. And didn't she announce her next album on his podcast?
She did. This summer, she revealed the title, The Life of a Showgirl, on Travis Kelce's podcast, New Heights, scheduled for release October 3rd, 2025.
Wow. That intertwining of her personal life and her career announcements, it just shows that unique connection she has and how she controls her own narrative.
Masterfully done.
But this level of success, this global spotlight, it also brought some major controversies onto the world stage, didn't it?
It absolutely did. The Eras Tour itself faced issues right from the start with ticket sales, particularly the Ticketmaster problems in the U.S. back in November 2022.
Right, that led to political scrutiny, hearings about monopolies.
Exactly, highlighting those big questions about the live event industry. And tragically, there was also the death of a fan in Brazil during the tour in December 2023, linked to extreme heat and alleged venue mismanagement.
It's awful.
Yeah. And connecting this to the bigger picture, the tour even sparked some international political tension. Like Singapore's exclusivity deal in February 2024, which caused quite a stir in Southeast Asia.
All right, neighboring countries felt left out.
Precisely. Then, separate from the tour, but reflecting her immense profile, in January 2024, those AI-generated pornographic deepfake images of her surfaced online, mainly on Twitter.
That was disturbing.
It caused widespread outrage and really spurred urgent calls for legal reforms around AI-generated content, online safety, non-consensual imagery.
A really important conversation that needed to happen.
Absolutely. And these incidents, combined with, sadly, even more tragic events like a stabbing attack at a Swift-themed workshop in England in July 2024 that led to civil unrest.
Oh my God.
And the cancellation of her Vienna concerts in August 2024 due to a credible terrorist threat. It all just highlights the immense and sometimes really volatile cultural weight she now carries.
It raises a huge question, doesn't it? What kind of responsibility comes with that level of global fame when your popularity itself can create these ripple effects, sometimes completely beyond your control?
It's a profound question, and one without easy answers for an artist navigating that kind of unprecedented influence. Okay, let's really try to deconstruct her artistry now, starting with her musical style. She's been called a musical chameleon so many times, by Time, the BBC.
And it fits, right?
It totally fits. Her discography just spans so many genres: pop, country, folk, rock, and she often pulls in elements from R&B, hip-hop, indie pop.
She really doesn't stick to one box.
Not at all. Now, she herself identified as a country musician for her first 4 albums, and you can hear the influences clearly, those 90s female country stars like Shania Twain, Faith Hill,
Yeah.
and also Keith Urban's kind of crossover country rock sound.
So what defined that early country sound for her?
Things like the 6-string banjo, mandolin, fiddle featuring prominently, that light vocal twang she had. And combining those country elements with really strong pop rock melodies, even on Speak Now, you started hearing more 70s and 80s rock styles creeping in.
But even back then, there was debate about whether she was really country, right?
Oh, yeah. Critics argued about it constantly. Some said country was more about her songwriting themes, her storytelling, not strictly the music itself. Others felt she was maybe diluting mainstream country by leaning so heavily into pop structures.
Interesting. So that debate around Red and its very eclectic sounds, that really foreshadowed the big pivot.
Exactly. With 1989, she just definitively recalibrated her whole artistic identity towards 80s synth-pop, taking cues from Phil Collins, Madonna.
Makes sense. Drum machines.
Totally, dense electronic arrangements, and she expanded on that with Reputation, which brought in those hip-hop, R&B, EDM sounds, very maximalist production, lots of manipulated vocals, really focusing on rhythm, sometimes more than traditional melody.
And Lover?
Lover went even more eclectic, exploring bits of country again, pop punk, folk rock, just showcasing that continued genre fluidity.
She just keeps changing. And the recent albums, Midnights and Tortured Poets.
Those shifted again more towards a minimalist synth-pop vibe. Lots of analog synths, sustained bass notes, simpler drum machine patterns. This whole pop evolution, though, it definitely created a divide among critics.
How so?
You had the sort of rockist critics who often saw the move away from country as, like, losing authenticity.
Right.
But then many others championed it as necessary artistic growth. They hailed her as a key figure in poptimism, the idea that pop music deserves serious critical respect.
Okay, interesting divide.
Mm-hmm.
And then came the other big shift.
The alternative turn, yeah. Folklore and Evermore in 2020, diving headfirst into indie folk and rock, much more subtle, stripped-back soundscapes, orchestrations, muted synths, drum pads.
A very different feel.
Completely different. Evermore even played with varied song structures, asymmetric time signatures. This phase was widely seen as this really mature expression of her as a singer-songwriter. And some people even credit her with helping to popularize certain alternative sounds within the mainstream. This constant exploration is just such a hallmark of her career. She's unafraid to experiment, always looking for new sonic ways to tell her stories.
Now let's talk about her voice, because her vocal evolution has been quite a journey too, hasn't it?
It really has. Technically, she's a mezzo-soprano, but she actually sings mostly in her lower alto register.
Okay. And early on, she faced some criticism for her vocals, especially live.
Yeah, early in her country career, some critics described her vocals as maybe weak or strained compared to, say, other powerhouse female country singers, especially in live settings.
Right. But what was the counterargument to that?
Well, her defenders and she herself pointed out that she deliberately avoided using autotune extensively. The priority seemed to be intimacy, emotional connection with the audience.
Getting the feeling across.
Exactly. Her style was often described as conversational. Music critic Ann Powers wrote about her attention to detail, how she conveyed specific feelings through these subtle adjustment of words and phrases to suggest moods like doubt, hope, and intimacy. It was a very conscious choice, prioritizing that direct connection over maybe sheer vocal power in those early years.
That makes sense. So how did her vocals change as she moved into pop?
Well, on albums like Red, and especially 1989, her vocals started being processed more, using electronic effects, synthesizer tweaks, looping, lots of multi-tracking to fit that glossy pop production style.
Right, matching the sound.
Then on Reputation and parts of Midnights, you could really hear those hip-hop and R&B influences coming through in her delivery, almost a near-rap style sometimes, emphasizing rhythm and cadence more than traditional melody, another facet of her versatility.
What about on Folklore and Evermore, the folkier albums?
That showed yet another side. She used her lower register a lot on Folklore. Then Evermore showcased both her lower and upper ranges. Critics described her timbre as breathy and bright, up high, versus full and dark, down low.
And the reception to her vocals has generally improved over time.
Significantly more positive, yeah, especially since Folklore. Critics often note a richer sound, stronger clarity, better tone, particularly in her live performances now compared to early on.
Interesting. Didn't Rolling Stone rank her recently?
They did. In 2023, they ranked her 102nd on their list of the 200 greatest singers of all time. They specifically cited her breathy timbre and that versatile delivery, saying her recent work had officially settled the argument about her vocal abilities.
Huh. Which raises the question, right? How much of that improved reception is her actual vocal development over years of performing versus maybe a broader critical shift in what we consider a great pop voice today? It's probably a bit of both.
I think that's a really fair assessment. It's likely a combination of her growth and evolving critical standards. Okay, let's get to the absolute heart of her artistry, the songwriting. Swift herself always says she's a songwriter first and foremost.
That's her core identity.
Absolutely. And her fascination started super young. Apparently, her mom used to encourage her to make up lyrics to Disney songs when she was little.
Cute. And her influences.
Early on, country legends like Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton, also those great 90s female singer-songwriters, Melissa Etheridge, Sarah McLachlan, Alanis Morissette.
Good. Strong female voices.
Definitely. Later, she mentioned Joni Mitchell as a key influence, and interestingly, Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy for his lyrical style.
Pete Wentz, that's unexpected.
Yeah. And for career role models, she's looked to artists like Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen, Emmylou Harris, Chris Christopherson, people known for evolving but consistently strong songwriting over decades.
That makes sense. And she had these categories for her lyrics, right?
Yeah. She does. She shares this with her fans. There are quill lyrics, which have that kind of antiquated, poetic feel.
Okay.
Then fountain pen lyrics, which are more modern, telling vivid stories.
Right.
And finally, glitter gel pen lyrics.
Yeah.
Those are the lively, fun, maybe more frivolous tracks.
I like that. And her process.
She usually starts with an emotion. Then the story and the melody kind of flow from that feeling. And at its core, historically, her songwriting has been largely autobiographical, using it to process her own experiences, especially around love and relationships.
Yeah, that's the classic perception.
Right. If you connect it across the albums, Taylor Swift and Fearless captured those adolescent feelings, optimistic, fairy tale kind of romance. Speak Now moved into young adulthood, dealing with real heartbreak. Red famously explored the chaos of an intense breakup.
Very vividly.
1989 reflected on failed relationships, but with a more wistful, maybe wiser perspective. Both Red and 1989 also started subtly hinting at sex, showing her personal growth. Then Lover, she described that as a love letter to love, coming from realizing what very real love felt like, much more secure, mature.
But her songwriting expanded beyond just romance as her fame grew, didn't it?
Absolutely. She started writing more about self-perception, confronting her critics, dealing with fame, sexism, that intense media scrutiny. You first saw hints of this on Speak Now, especially regarding those frantic media speculations about her dating life, which she rightly called out as sexist.
Yeah.
Then Reputation just dove headfirst into addressing those public controversies that had damaged her image. But it cleverly intertwined that with a narrative about finding love amidst the drama. And it also included more explicit references to sex and alcohol, a clear break from her earlier, more innocent image.
And in the later albums.
Midnights explored these late-night thoughts, regrets, fantasies, insecurities, all framed by her awareness of her own fame. The Tortured Poets Department, which came about during the peak era's tour fame and her very public love life, pushed themes like heartbreak, desire, forbidden love, wanting to escape the spotlight, to even more intense levels.
But then she also did something different with Folklore and Evermore.
Right.
Moving away from strict autobiography.
Exactly. That was a really fascinating shift, inspired by writers like F. Scott Fitzgerald, Robert Frost, William Wordsworth, even Emily Dickinson, who she found out she's distantly related to.
No way.
Yeah. On those albums, she explored fictional narratives, escapism, romanticism, creating imagined characters and story arcs, imposing her own emotions onto these fictional scenarios like folk tales or fragments of memory.
She calls her style confessional. And academics have drawn parallels to confessional poetry, right? Publicizing internal feelings.
Precisely. And the critical reception to her songwriting has been overwhelmingly positive over the years. Praised for her melodies, those incredibly memorable bridges she crafts.
The bridges are legendary.
They really are. She's often credited with taking that confessional singer-songwriter tradition to new heights. People have called her the poet laureate of her generation because of her lyrical impact.
But there have been criticisms too, right?
Oh, definitely. Early on, some detractors just dismissed it all as tabloid gossip set to music. Those raucous critics sometimes saw her literary references as just commercial tricks, or found her metaphors maybe imprecise or self-indulgent.
And you mentioned potential sexism in the criticism earlier.
Yes, scholars like Travis Steimling and Ryan Hibbett have argued exactly that detractors, often male, tend to trivialize her focus on young female experiences, denying her the kind of full artistic respect they might grant male artists like Bob Dylan, who also wrote deeply personal, sometimes relationship-focused songs, but maybe faced less scrutiny for it.
That's a really important point.
It is. Literary critic Stephanie Burt summed it up nicely, I think. She said Swift's writing might not be traditional poetry in the academic sense, but she's exceptionally skilled at placing inventive, evocative language into pop melodies designed to be sung. And that connects with millions.
Okay, let's shift to her live performances. That's another huge part of her artistry that's evolved.
Absolutely. Her concerts are known for these incredibly elaborate settings, sometimes incorporating elements from Broadway theater, always using high-tech visuals.
Very theatrical.
Very. But interestingly, she doesn't rely heavily on complex choreography herself. The emphasis is much more on creating that emotional connection with the audience through her storytelling, her vocal delivery.
It's about intimacy, even in a giant stadium.
Exactly. And she's toured with the same core live band since way back in 2007, which creates this really cohesive musical foundation. Plus, she plays multiple instruments herself on stage: guitar, banjo, piano, ukulele.
Right, showcasing her musicality.
Critics consistently praise her stage presence, her stamina. Those shows are long. And especially that ability to create intimacy even in these massive venues. Sasha Frere Jones at The New Yorker called her preternaturally skilled as an entertainer. Sam Lansky, in that Time Person of the Year piece, noted how the intimacy of her songcraft is front and center, even in her stadium shows.
That ability to translate personal lyrics into this huge, shared live experience, that's a major part of her appeal, isn't it? A real mastery of the stage.
Definitely.
And what about the visual side? Music videos, filmmaking, that seems increasingly important to her.
Hugely important. She treats visuals as a key creative component of her whole narrative. She actually established her own production company, Taylor Swift Productions, way back in 2008.
2008, wow, early on.
Yeah. Her directorial debut was co-directing the video for Mine in 2010. She developed the concept for the Mean video in 2011. She had that really fruitful collaboration with director Joseph Kahn for 8 videos across 1989 and Reputation.
Yeah, those were iconic.
And she even produced the Bad Blood video, which won a Grammy for Best Music Video.
Okay. And didn't you win an Emmy for something interactive?
She did, a Primetime Emmy in 2015 for Outstanding Interactive Program for the Amex Unstaged. Taylor Swift Experience, it was this cool interactive app that went with the Blank Space video.
Very innovative. And she directs a lot of her own videos now, right?
Increasingly so. As of May 2025, she's directed 13 of her own music videos. Her first solo directing credit was for The Man, and that won her the MTV VMA for Best Direction. A huge deal for a female artist directing her own major pop video.
Absolutely. And then came the short film.
All Too Well, the short film. Her proper filmmaking debut released in 2021 alongside Red, Taylor's version, and it made her the first artist ever to win the Grammy for Best Music Video as a solo director.
First ever again. She's clearly serious about filmmaking.
Very serious. Her talent in this area was recognized when she was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in June 2023. And she cites some really interesting filmmaking influences. Joseph Kahn, obviously, but also Chloe Zhao, Greta Gerwig, Nora Ephron, Guillermo del Toro, even John Cassavetes and Noah Baumbach.
Wow, quite a range.
Mm-hmm.
It really shows this holistic control she seeks over her narrative, her art, from the song itself to the final visual representation. Truly a multi-talented force.
Absolutely. That complete vision is rare. Okay, let's try to wrap our heads around the sheer volume of awards and broken records, because this is where her reign just becomes undisputed.
Yeah, the list is staggering.
She's won 14 Grammy Awards, including, as we mentioned, a record-breaking 4 wins for Album of the Year. No one else has done that.
4 times. Just incredible.
Beyond the Grammys, her trophy case is overflowing. 12 Country Music Association Awards, 8 Academy of Country Music Awards, 2 Brit Awards, even that Primetime Emmy.
And isn't she the most awarded artist ever at some major award shows?
Yes. She holds the record for the most wins at the American Music Awards, 40 wins, the Billboard Music Awards, 49 wins, and the MTV Video Music Awards, 30 wins, tied with Beyoncé for that one.
40 AMAs. That's dominance.
Total dominance. She got the CMA Pinnacle Award back in 2013. She was the first solo artist to get that, second only to Garth Brooks overall. Recognized her unique global impact early on.
Right. And the Brits gave her a special award, too.
The Global Icon Award in 2021. She was the first woman ever to receive it. And back in 2016, BMI, the publishing rights organization, actually named an award after her, the Taylor Swift Award. First female songwriter ever honored like that, a huge testament to her songwriting influence.
Wow. The Taylor Swift Award.
And her songwriting recognition is just constant. Youngest person on Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Songwriters of All Time list in 2015. Got the Songwriter Icon Award from the NMPA in 2021. Named Songwriter Artist of the Decade by the Nashville Songwriters Association in 2022.
Just piling up the accolades.
And globally, the IFPI, that's the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, they've named her the Global Recording Artist of the Year 5 times.
5 times. More than anyone else.
More than any other artist. 2014, 2019, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Just highlights her consistent global appeal and unbelievable commercial success year after year.
Okay, and the streaming and touring numbers, they're just as mind-blowing. It's setting new benchmarks.
Completely redefining them. As of February 2024, she was the most streamed artist on Spotify globally. And as we talked about, the highest grossing touring act of all time. Cumulative tour revenue over $3.12 billion by December 2024.
$3.12 billion from touring. Just staggering.
It really is. Her chart records are seemingly endless, too. Most #1 albums in the UK and Ireland for a female artist this century. First artist to hold the top 5 spots on the Australian albums chart twice. First to hold the top 10 on the Australian singles chart.
Wow, global dominance on the charts, too.
Everywhere. Most entries, most simultaneous entries, and most #1 entries for a solo artist on the Billboard Global 200 chart. First artist to spend 100 weeks total atop the Billboard Artist 100 chart.
Okay, let's focus on the U.S. sales and Billboard charts for a second, because those numbers are just wild.
They really are. As of May 2025, she sold over 116.7 million equivalent album units in the U.S. alone, including 54 million pure album sales.
54 million pure sales in this era. Incredible.
And her Billboard dominance, unparalleled. She's the solo artist with the most total weeks spent at #1 on the Billboard 200 album chart. She holds the record for the most #1 albums by a female artist on that chart, 14 of them.
14 #1 albums.
She ties with Ariana Grande for the most #1 debuts on the Hot 100 singles chart, with 7. She holds the record for the most #1 songs on the Pop Airplay chart. She was the first artist ever to chart 5 different albums in the top 10 of the Billboard 200 at the same time.
5 albums in the top 10 at once? How is that even possible?
Catalog strength and new releases combined. And she's the first woman to earn diamond certifications from the RIA. That's 10 million units for both an album, Fearless, and a song, Shake It Off.
Wow. So Billboard must rank her pretty high historically.
Extremely high. They ranked her #8 on their greatest of all time artists list in 2019. #2 on their greatest pop stars at the 21st Century list in 2024. And just this year, 2025, they named her #1 on both their top 100 women artists of the 21st century and their overall top artists of the 21st century lists. It paints this picture of an artist who isn't just successful now, but historically dominant and constantly rewriting the record books.
Her public image and the sheer power he wields are just as influential as her music, aren't they?
Absolutely. Just look at the industry itself.
Yeah.
In 2024, she became the first solo artist ever and only the second act overall, after Beyoncé and Jay-Z combined to top Billboard's annual Power 100 list. That's their ranking of the most powerful executives in the music industry.
Topping a list of executives as an artist. That says everything about her influence beyond just making music. It extends right into the boardrooms.
Precisely. And Time magazine has recognized her power and influence repeatedly on their 100 most influential people list multiple times, 2010, 2015, 2019.
And the Person of the Year connection is fascinating, too.
It really is. First, she was highlighted as one of the silence breakers in 2017 for speaking out about her sexual assault trial, a really powerful moment of advocacy.
Right.
Then, in 2023, she became the first person ever recognized as Time's Person of the Year, specifically for achievement in the arts, and the first woman to appear on the cover more than once in that context. This consistent recognition from Time just underscores her unique cultural standing. She even got an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from NYU and gave the commencement speech in 2022.
Wow. Talk about recognition. Now, her early image, it was very much America's sweetheart.
Right. Yeah, that media darling, girl next door persona was very strong early on. Polite, open-hearted. She projected this very feminine image, but importantly, she avoided the kind of aggressively sexualized feminist pop that some of her contemporaries were doing. It was more modest, subtle, sophisticated sex appeal.
And her themes about adolescence cemented her as a teen idol. But there were some early feminist critiques, too.
There were. Some feminist writers looked at her early songs, heavily focused on romantic relationships, and critiqued them as maybe narrow-minded or potentially detrimental to young women. So those discussions about her messaging started quite early.
Right. Then came the pivot to pop.
And with that, she openly identified as a feminist. She achieved full-blown pop icon status. Jody Rosen, back in 2013, famously called her the queen of pop because she defied those traditional genre lines and demographic boundaries.
But her feminist image wasn't universally embraced.
No, it got mixed reactions. Some praised her success in a male-dominated industry as truly inspirational. Others dismissed her adoption of feminism as maybe superficial or self-interested. And then that 2016 Kanye West dispute. Even though the full story later came out showing she was misled,
Yeah.
it unfortunately fueled that narrative among her detractors of her being, like, calculating or manipulative, which highlights the intense scrutiny powerful women often face.
Definitely. But her artistic reinventions since then, especially in the 2020s.
Those really led to her being recognized as this rare phenomenon, someone who successfully combines being a massive pop star with being a deeply respected singer-songwriter. She sort of transcends those earlier labels now.
And she's often called things like the last pop superstar or the last great rock star of our time. Why is that?
Largely because of her ability to consistently sell millions of albums, physical albums even, across 2 decades. All while the music industry itself has seen massive declines in traditional sales, it's remarkable sustainability.
And her business strategies are widely praised too, right? An economic genius.
Yeah, economist Alan Kruger famously called her that. Her innovative use of things like enhanced physical album variants, multiple collectible versions.
Yeah, the fans love those.
They do. And her strategic use of Easter eggs, hidden clues, and messages in her work, those became trend-setting marketing tactics. They create this incredible bond and engagement with her dedicated fan base, the Swifties.
Speaking of the Swifties.
They are famously one of the most loyal, dedicated, and organized fan bases in music history. Actively involved in her career, her narratives, even mobilizing for her re-recording project. Katie Lang, at Time, noted that Swift maintained this superstardom through really savvy manipulation of both the industry and her personal brand. It's an impressive balancing act. And if we connect this all to the bigger picture, her legacy is just immense and touches so many areas. She's credited with popularizing country music internationally, especially to young women. Got called the biggest country star since Garth Brooks.
Right. And didn't they say she influenced guitar sales?
Yeah, the Taylor Swift factor. Some reports linked her rise to increased guitar sales among women and girls. Her big transition from country to pop is also seen by many critics as a major catalyst for the rise of poptimism as a critical movement.
Okay. And her influence on other artists?
Huge. Her songwriting style, her musical shifts, her career strategies, they've clearly influenced a whole new generation of artists across multiple genres. Billboard magazine noted her unique ability to achieve massive chart success, critical acclaim, and that passionate fan support all at the same time, and her power to popularize almost any sound she touches in the mainstream.
Her popularity, especially with women, has made her sort of a symbol for millennials, right? Capturing the zeitgeist.
Definitely. She's become this representation for her generation. Popular culture scholars Mary Fogarty and Gina Arnold argued her story really encapsulates many of the urgent conflicts in early 21st century American culture. Joe Coscarelli at the New York Times even said her enduring popularity sparks debates, comparing her not just to contemporaries like Drake or Beyoncé,
but to legends.
Yeah. Comparisons, however debatable, are made to the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Elton John. It shows the scale of her perceived impact. And what's particularly impactful for the industry itself is her advocacy for artists' rights, especially through the re-recording project. That has profoundly shaped industry conversations and even led to reforms around intellectual property, master ownership, fair compensation.
Yeah, that's a tangible legacy right there.
Absolutely. Her career and artistry are now seriously studied in universities. Courses examining her work through literary, cultural, sociopolitical lenses. Experts in musicology, literature, sociology, media studies, linguistics, they're all analyzing the Taylor Swift phenomenon.
Wow. So her legacy is complex, embraced and critiqued by all sorts of groups.
Extremely complex, embraced and critiqued by feminist groups, queer communities, even far-right groups and religious organizations have weighed in. It just demonstrates her incredibly wide-reaching, often polarizing cultural significance. Which leads to that big question. How will this multifaceted influence continue to shape not just music, but broader cultural and academic conversations for years, even decades to come?
A huge question indeed. And all this success, this influence, it's obviously translated into staggering wealth and a real business empire.
No question. Forbes has consistently ranked her among the highest paid musicians globally, named her the highest paid female musician of the entire 2010s decade, and again in 2021 and 2022.
And she hit billionaire status recently.
Yep, October 2023. Forbes recognized her as the first billionaire whose fortune came primarily based on her songs and performances, the majority coming from music royalties and touring, not side ventures.
So mostly self-made through her actual art.
Exactly. As of June 2025, Forbes estimated her net worth at $1.6 billion, making her the richest female musician in the world.
Wow. And a real estate portfolio is pretty impressive, too.
It is. Forbes estimated at around $110 million as of 2025. Properties in Nashville, New York City, LA, including the famous Samuel Goldwyn estate, and that coastal mansion in Rhode Island, Highwatch.
Okay. But her wealth has also brought some scrutiny, right? Particularly around private jet use.
Yes. That's become a recurring point of criticism, the carbon emissions from her private jet travel. In 2023, her spokesperson stated she'd purchased more than double the required carbon credits to offset her travel for the year.
Right. And didn't her lawyers get involved with that jet tracker?
They did. They sent a cease and desist letter to Jack Sweeney, the student tracking celebrity jets, in December 2023. And then, reportedly, she sold one of her 2 private jets in February 2024, which seemed like a response to that public pressure and the environmental concerns.
Interesting. Okay, so beyond the music itself, her album rollouts always involve tons of promotion, brand partnerships, right?
Always. Target has been a huge, long-standing partner, offering exclusive versions of her physical albums. Early on, she had deals for self-designed dolls with Jakks Pacific, fragrances with Elizabeth Arden, clothes with LEI, even holiday cards with American Greetings.
Wow, quite a range early on.
Aye.
And major brands later.
Yeah, CoverGirl, Sony Electronics, Starbucks, Keds Shoes, Subway, Diet Coke, Walgreens, Walmart, even Papa John's Pizza between 2012 and 2015.
Okay. And the partnerships continued to evolve, showing that business sense.
Definitely. In 2014, New York City actually named her their official tourism ambassador.
Really?
She had that exclusive streaming deal with Apple Music in 2015 after the policy change. A multi-year deal with AT&T started in 2016. Partnered with UPS in 2017 for album distribution. More recently, a big multi-year deal with Capital One Bank started in 2019. Same year, she launched a clothing line with designer Stella McCartney.
Wow. And wasn't she involved with Record Store Day?
Yes. In 2022, she became the first ever global ambassador for Record Store Day, a move that really emphasized her commitment to physical music formats and supporting independent retailers. All these ventures just show this really deep understanding she has of branding, marketing, and business, extending her reach far beyond just the songs themselves. Okay, moving beyond the music and the business, let's talk about her social activism and philanthropy, because there's been a really notable evolution in her public stance here.
Yeah, she wasn't always outspoken politically, was she?
Not at all. Early in her career, she mostly avoided talking politics. She famously said in a 2012 Time interview she didn't want to influence people's political opinions, which unfortunately led to some alt-right groups in the U.S. trying to claim her as their icon, sparking controversy.
Right, that was weird. But she did support Obama.
She did mention supporting Barack Obama back in 2008. That was kind of the exception early on.
But that apolitical stance really shifted around 2018.
Drastically shifted, yeah. Since then, she's been very public with her views. She endorsed 2 Democratic candidates in the 2018 U.S. midterm elections in Tennessee, which clearly distanced her from that alt-right appropriation.
And why the earlier reluctance? She mentioned the Dixie Chicks?
Exactly. She said the intense backlash the Dixie Chicks faced back in 2003 after criticizing President Bush left this really lasting impact on country musicians, especially women. It demonstrated the potential career consequences of speaking out politically in that sphere.
Understandable. But she's definitely speaking out now, criticizing Donald Trump, urging voter registration.
Massively. Her calls for voter registration have had documented effects. One push in 2020 led to 65,000 registrations in a single day. She endorsed the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020 and the Harris-Walz ticket in 2024.
Okay. And her activism goes beyond just elections, right? Across various social issues.
Absolutely. The scope is really broad now. She identifies as a pro-choice feminist, was a founding signatory of the Time's Up movement against sexual harassment, and she publicly criticized the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade in 2022.
LGBTQ plus rights, too.
Very vocal supporter. Donated to organizations like the Tennessee Equality Project and GLAD, called for Congress to pass the Equality Act. She even performed at World Pride NYC back in 2019.
And anti-racism.
Yes, spoken out against white supremacy, racism, police brutality. Donated to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund, called for the removal of Confederate monuments in Tennessee, advocated for Juneteenth to become a national holiday. She also supports gun control, backing the March for Our Lives movement.
So a really wide range of progressive causes now. How has that been received?
It's definitely sparked significant discussion, mobilized a lot of her fans, particularly younger ones, to become more civically engaged. Of course, critics sometimes question the timing or maybe the depth of her political statements, asking if it's strategically aligned with her brand.
Right. And is her influence sometimes overstated?
There's debate about that. While her influence is clearly significant, especially in mobilizing voters, some analysts caution against overstating it. But scholar Simone Dreisen noted her political impact isn't just limited to the U.S. anymore, it's reaching places like Australia and Europe, too. Shows her global reach in mobilizing her audience.
Okay, beyond the political advocacy, her philanthropy seems like a really consistent thread throughout her entire career. It's a sustained generosity.
It really is. She topped Does Something's Gone Good list back in 2015 for charitable work, received awards like the Star of Compassion, the Big Help Award for inspiring young people. And her disaster relief efforts alone are extensive and remarkably consistent over the years.
Give us some examples.
Okay, back in 2009, $100,000 to the Red Cross for Iowa floods, performed at Sydney's Sound Relief Benefit. After the 2010 Tennessee floods, she gave $500,000. A dress rehearsal for her Speak Now tour in 2011 raised over $750,000 for U.S. tornado victims. 2016, $1 million for Louisiana flood relief. $100,000 to Dolly Parton's Wildfire Fund. 2017, donated to Houston food banks after Hurricane Harvey. 2020 and 2023 gave $1 million each time for Tennessee tornado relief. And just last year, 2024, $5 million towards Hurricane Helene and Milton relief efforts. It's just constant major support in times of crisis.
That's incredible consistency and scale. And what about health and welfare causes?
Also substantial and often very personal. She's donated $25,000 to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, performed that heartbreaking song, Ronan, about a young boy lost to cancer at a Stand Up to Cancer telethon. The song itself was a charity single.
Right. Proceeds went to cancer charities.
Exactly. She's given $100,000 to the V Foundation for Cancer Research, $50,000 to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And what's really touching, she's known to make personal donations directly to fans struggling with medical bills or academic expenses, often completely anonymously.
Wow. That's amazing.
During the COVID pandemic, she donated to the World Health Organization and Feeding America, supported struggling independent record stores, performed Soon You'll Get Better, a song about her mother's cancer battle, on the One World, Together at Home special.
It really shows a breadth of engagement, doesn't it, across so many different causes.
It really does. Early on, she partnered with Tennessee police on a child internet safety campaign, donated items constantly for auctions benefiting UNICEF, MusiCares, promoted Global Youth Service Day. She's a huge advocate for children's literacy, donating money and books to schools and libraries.
And supporting sexual assault awareness.
Yes, in 2018 and 2021, she made significant donations to RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network during Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. She's even supported fellow artists publicly, like donating to Keisha during her legal battles, and to Mariska Hargitay's Joyful Heart Foundation, which also works with assault survivors.
And the Eras Tour itself had a philanthropic component.
Absolutely. It became an integral part of the tour. She made substantial donations to food banks in nearly every city she visited: Florida, Arizona, Las Vegas, many more. Actively hired local businesses and vendors for tour services. And then, in that truly remarkable gesture, gave a reported $197 million in bonus payments to her entire tour crew: dancers, truckers, caterers, everyone.
$197 million in bonuses. Wow. That shows real commitment to the people making the show happen.
Incredible commitment. And even beyond the tour, the giving continues. February 2024, she donated $100,000 to the family of Lisa Lopez Galvin, the woman tragically killed in the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooting. December 2024 gave $250,000 to Operation Breakthrough in Kansas City for workforce development, childcare, and early learning programs. This consistent, incredibly wide-ranging generosity from huge institutions down to individual crises and systemic community support, it just highlights this deep, genuine commitment she seems to have to giving back and using her enormous platform for good.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive that was.
Yeah.
We've really covered the whole spectrum of Taylor Swift's career, haven't we?
We really have.
From those early country roots, dreaming big in Pennsylvania and Nashville, through that calculated, genre-smashing pivot to pop, her monumental fight for her own art, the re-recordings, and just these constant, astonishing artistic reinventions, folk, rock hyperpop.
Yeah.
We've watched her evolve from a teenage songwriter
Mm-hmm.
into this truly undeniable global force culturally, economically, philanthropically.
Her story, it really is more than just music, isn't it? It feels like a living blueprint for how to navigate strategic reinvention, how to build unparalleled fan loyalty, and how to powerfully leverage influence once you have it.
Yeah, blueprint is a good way to put it.
She's an artist who, through that chameleon-like ability to adapt and just this incredibly keen understanding of her craft and her audience, hasn't just defined an era. She's fundamentally reshaped entire industries around her. She proves you can be both a creative visionary and a really savvy businesswoman. That combination is rare and so impactful in today's world.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. Given her history of constant evolution, her knack for not just adapting, but actually leading and redefining, what do you think the next era for Taylor Swift might look like? And maybe more importantly, how might that next chapter shape not just her own enduring legacy, but the future of the music industry itself?